Hello and welcome to Chess Books 81. I'm going to be looking at several books, I hope not too many, about Viktor Korchnoi. Viktor Korchnoi is dead now, but he did live a long life, and he was one of the first Soviet grandmasters to abscond. He took leave of absence and ended up in Holland, registered himself for Switzerland, and he didn't go back. He was a challenger to Gary. Well, he did finally lose to Gary Kasparov in 1983, but he was primarily challenger. Just noticed I've got something on my face. I think it's my nose. He was challenger to Anatoly Karpov for many years. Anyway, I've got a whole stack of books here, so let's get cracking. This was published by Oxford University Press in 1978, I think, something like that. That's a guess. 1979, so it's only a year out. It's edited by David Levy and Kevin O'Connell, and it has an introduction by Bill Hartston. So you're in good company. The text is rather small. And nowadays, books like this don't really exist quite in the same fonts, but it deals with Korchnoi's career up until him becoming a qualifier to play Karpov, probably. In 1974, he played a candidates final against Karpov, 24 games, which was worthy of the World Championship. And I have a feeling, looking back now, that probably FIDE knew that Fischer was not going to defend his title. And so he became the number 2 player in the world, following on Bobby's retirement. That's right, yes, this goes up to 1977. It's also got books of chapters of cross tables there, starting off the results. And this begins in 1947, when Korchnoi won the Leningrad Junior Championships, and goes right through for another 30 years. It's a very dense book. It does have notes to some of the games. Others may not need notes, and others, again, possibly do need notes, but we haven't got them. But nevertheless, it's quite a nice book. There we are. Published by Oxford University Press. Now, this is one of the sort of spin-off publications. Persona non grata. This is by Viktor Korchnoi and Lenny Cavallaro. This is actually his anti-chess, which was republished. It's published by Thinkers Press, not the Thinkers Press in Belgium, but the American outfit, done by Mr. Bob Long, who's sadly no longer with us. And Bob, I knew a little and I liked you a lot, so I miss you. This deals with his World Championship match of 1978. And here's a picture of Dr. Zukar, who was a hypnotist who turned up in the audience in order to hypnotize Korchnoi. I think he did little more than it would take rather a lot to disturb Korchnoi. There he is, having his handshake turned down by Anatoly Karpov. And they played a match in the Philippines, a very long match, and with some pretty damn good games in it. I really enjoyed that match as much as anything. Talking about Petra Lerverick, who finally became Mrs. Korchnoi. And there's Korchnoi at a press conference with Campomanes before he became VA president. Was I gesticulating? Almost the Pantocrator. Not quite. Korchnoi became challenger twice, and finally in 1983, I think he lost to Kasparov in a match that there was an enormous amount riding on it, really. Perhaps he realized his time had come, I don't know. Here are the games of the 1978 match. Oh, a few of them are annotated. I didn't realize that. Let's see how many there are. 28, 29, 32. Play was not resumed, and Korchnoi is appealing the game. Is appealing the game. I think what they mean is he's appealing against the result. But there we are. Lots of controversy and bad behaviour by just about all the contracting parties. But nevertheless, of some interest. This is pretty decent. My goodness, look at this in hardback. Chess is My Life. This was interesting. He and Karpov, or the publishers, decided that they would bring out a series of books. Excuse me, keep on scratching my hands about a terrible eczema. Yes, and they were all called Chess is My Life. This has got a preface by Garry Kasparov. If you think about the irony of a Soviet grandmaster, as he was, writing the introduction to a book against somebody who was sort of declared an enemy of the state, and it's translated by Ken Neat, a player of Master Strength. This is Korchnoi's games. Enormous amount of biography here, autobiography. He takes the course that he's games with black, and they're all games with black. In a way, he sort of makes it as difficult for himself as he knows how. And here's Korchnoi doing in the manner of the Soviets when they take photographs of people. And there he is skiing, there he is playing, or practicing, playing table tennis. Korchnoi was fairly athletic. There's a photograph of him with Michael Steen and Ray Keane when they were in Brighton doing prep for the first of the World Championship matches of 1978, and running away together. This is a photograph of Karpov and Korchnoi at the 1973 Leningrad Interzonal, from which they both qualified along with Robert Byrne for the 8-player knockout. Korchnoi's results. There we are. Lots of these, starting in 1947, same as the other one was. It's much more up to date, and going up to 2005, when he played in the European Seniors and came second, which doesn't sound impressive, but he might have been pretty good. Here he is with Gligoric and with Smyslov on the seat. And the gentleman with the beard is Larsen. And several faces. Oh yes, Werner Hug, because he and Unzicker. You'd have to be better eyesight than me to pick all these guys out, but nevertheless, in Korchnoi, there's Gligoric there. Korchnoi and Smyslov. So they all got seats. And this is some very well annotated, I'm sure, games. And Korchnoi doesn't hold back. He liked nothing more than to be attacked. He was an old bugger. And he commands our respect, and I think always will in the chess world. So that's one of the books called Chess is My Life. Here is another one called My Best Games, and this is 3 games with black. So that one was a biography. I was wrong. It isn't the games with black in that book. This is the games with black. Same publisher, same player, Viktor Korchnoi. This is a 2003 Olms edition. And it starts with a 1952 game against Smyslov. There he is, intent on concentration. And I think Gary Kasparov in the background. Does that look like Gary? I think it does. Let's have a look. And I wouldn't put my life on it, but yes, I think it is. And this is the book which all the games in this book have Viktor as black. And there's 50 games, and the last game against Larry Christensen is a French defense, which I so enjoy. From Reykjavik 2000. There we are. Quite a colourful cover. Don't particularly care for it, but you may think differently. There it is. It certainly is a sturdy hardback. Now, this is an earlier publication, but I quite like it for all of that. Korchnoi's 400 Best Games. There was some problems with the publication of this. I think he said he didn't give permission or something. Sounds like Bronstein blowing his top. Anyway, this is Best Games. There's lots of results and chit-chat. And it's a typical Bob Wade publication with everybody on. Les Blackstock, who was great friends with Wade, chucking in all sorts of stuff. And believe you me, it's worth seeing. I don't think there's any photographs, but there's lots of cross tables and loads of games. So it says 400 games. There we are. Bookmark, proving that I have actually played through some of them. I was looking at the English defence game. They call it Owen's defence, but in fact it's not. It's the English defence, so D4 E6, C4 B6, which Ray Keane came up with for Viktor to play when Ray was second to Viktor. So that's Ray Keane, England's Ray Keane. This is a fairly dense paperback, but it's also available in hardcovers. Probably hard to get hold of these days. A very, very nice book. Korchnoi travelled fairly widely. South America, played in the US, obviously Russian tournaments, particularly when he was a young master. Now this is I love the fact it's got a price label on it of £1. I think that's priceless. This is the games with white, so this is the companion volume to the other one I showed you. And we begin, presumably in order chronological, 1951. I was no child prodigy. Chess knowledge did not come easily to me. I don't think at any stage it did, because he was so sort of pig-headed about things in the right sort of way. I quite quickly gained fame as a player who would take any pawns, even the most poisoned, and tenaciously defend them. The blame for this lay with games such as the following. And it's a game from the Chigirin Memorial of 1951. And it has an introduction, the book has an introduction rather, by Genna Sazonko, who was his colleague in Holland, and also a former Soviet grandmaster. A short career really, Sazonko, but in old age, and that means now, he's written a lot of books, which are quite good. Here's Viktor playing Spassky in 1977 for the honour of having a pop at Karpov, and they finally did play off in the Philippines. I said that already, didn't I? Preparing myself for my game against Mikhail Gurevich, it was helpful to recall my juvenile years in Leningrad. I used to play the Leningrad Dutch with black, and as white, I played blitz and serious games against the founders of the system. In 1951, the system received the highest seal of approval in the 19th USSR Championship. Kopylov beat the then world champion, Botvinnik. Yes, Botvinnik was a bit accident-prone in these internal tournaments because he was busy doing other things. The Soviets always turned their back on professionalism, saying, we're only amateurs, yes, and the rest. But nevertheless, Botvinnik, when it mattered, did play superb chess. So if from 1948 to 1963, with 2 little breaks, you can stay world champion, you must be doing something right, mustn't you? As you can see, the format is double columns, algebraic figurines. Let's have a look at the index just to whet your appetite. Lots of Englishes, about a dozen Englishes, and 8 Queen's Gambits. All the famous grandmasters brought here. Philip, Dolmatov, Botvinnik, of course, Pano, Petrosian, Polygaevsky, Portish, Reshevsky, Robach, our own Nigel Short. What more could you want? 2 games against Tal, 1 game against Timon. And once again, a very distinctive cover. There's Viktor with the chessboard at the back, made into, I suppose, pyramids or something, and a flag saying number 1. This was declared the Book of the Year by the then British Chess Federation. Here's something by Cyrus, who is a friend of mine on Facebook, and there's Korchnoi looking back at them move by move. There are many books in this move by move series now, and there are many books by Cyrus, and they have the they have questions throughout the annotated games. All the games are complete, and for example, wouldn't 8 bishop d2 be more logical? It's a game of Korchnoi's in the good old winnow variation. See the double pawn, but for that, black hasn't got the bishop pair. He sacrificed bishop for knight in order to double the pawn. And to see what hell could be let loose. I don't know how many games we've got here, which is not a book I know well, far from it. I'll just find out. It's a big book. 61 games, and the last one is against, I don't know if they're chronological, against John Nunn, England's John Nunn, in the World Team Championships. That's not the same as the Olympiad, I don't think. Chapters on various themes: Korchnoi on endings, Korchnoi on accumulating advantages. I just read them all out. That's a big chapter. Korchnoi on exploiting imbalances. In other words, maybe you've got rook against knight, but the knight will perhaps have extra pawns just to keep the spice. You will not off to sleep when studying the games of Viktor Korchnoi. More exploiting imbalances, riding the dynamic element. Let's just see what he says about that. Game against Larsen from 1987. I remember that game. Viktor always used to play his seconds openings, his assistants. He didn't trust his own openings. In this chapter, we examine Korchnoi's handling of the initiative, his philosophy. An opponent's unanticipated response was always being met by a counter, even crazier, unanticipated response. So strange are some of Viktor's plans to seize the initiative that if a chess-playing psychiatrist buys his book, I'm certain he will whip out her notepad and jot down patient exhibiting odd behavior. I think he had every right to exhibit odd behavior, if you want my opinion, and even if you don't. So there we are, and the first game is against an even more eccentric player, Duncan Suttles of Canada. Sadly, Suttles took early retirement from chess. So Korchnoi on defense. So these games are not put in chronological order. They have the chapters are grouped by theme, which you might prefer, because if you get this book, I hope you do, published by Everyman, I would say that even if you've got several Korchnoi books, this throws different emphasis on aspects of his play. Good, bad, and indifferent. Because he did have weaknesses. Even though at his best, they say, well, who's the greatest player never to become world champion? And they say Viktor Korchnoi or Paul Keres or Akiba Rubinstein. That's probably the three answers you'll get. There's probably some more modern ones. More Korchnoi on defense. Yes, he likened when he was playing Karpov to the position of the siege of Leningrad. Someone came up to him and said, "Excuse me, aren't you only playing a game of chess, not fighting for your life?" Korchnoi on the attack. Yes, when he had the initiative and when everything was in place, he did go into some pretty fearsome attacks, but not just for the sake of it, and forsaking all other. I don't know that game. Game played in Las Vegas in 2007. I don't know that at all. Reykjavik 2003 again. Another game I didn't know. Playing Spassky, a rapid play game. It was really sweet that Spassky and Korchnoi were due to play some friendly games, and the photographer and all the publicity was sort of arranged. And then Spassky said, "Oh, I don't want to play the match," or something. And Korchnoi said, well, why don't we just play some friendly games and be photographed? And Spassky said, well, I don't know about that. So, that's what you call a relaxed approach. So the first chapter is called Korchnoi on the Attack. So I think I've covered the 3 or 4. 4, I think it was. Attack, counterattack, defense. Here's an introduction. So, game against Najdorf from 1971. Is there such thing as a typical Korchnoi game? Is there a thing, a typical Korchnoi? Perhaps the answer is to look for a game filled with exclams and blunders, without outlandish notions and arcane mysteries, like the following game, Korchnoi versus Najdorf. I'm not sure that this isn't the game where Korchnoi promoted a pawn because they didn't have a queen, pressed his clock, and then Najdorf said he could select which piece Korchnoi had. Selected, promoted it to, and said, oh, you can have a knight. I'm not sure that isn't it. Forgive me, I'm just looking through. Maybe not. I think that did happen at Reich-Hansay. I think old Najdorf was had his tongue in his cheek. The great stretcher of limits, Korchnoi's style, the X-ray of chairs, the legality and illegality of the Jolly Roger flags at the table, parapsychologists and hypnotists, we mentioned earlier, Dr. Zucker, the changing flavours of yogurt, yes. He thought perhaps if you came out with blueberry or raspberry ripple or something. Yes, here's the bibliography. The first in the books mentioned is Just As My Life by Viktor Korchnoi. And look inside. And it's, I got him to sign it. There we are. Left that to the last. I was at Lloyd's Bank Masters in London, and I said to the organizer, Stuart Rubin, can I get Korchnoi to sign my book? And he said, if you hurry, you can. But he said he may decline. And I gave it to him and said, would you sign my book, please, Mr. Korchnoi? And he took it away. He didn't sort of, write in midair as if it didn't matter. And he took it to a little table and he got out his pen and wrote, and then he's dated it. So this is from 1982. So that's 40 years ago. And as you can see, there's brown marks on the book. But this is his biography. It is filled with a lot of hate, but it is also filled with a lot of flavour. And it does have some chess in it at the back, but not that much. Some annotated games. It was quite avant-garde in those days to put games, the algebraic notation, and also the figurines. But there we are. Well, this has been a breathless breeze through in half an hour. This talks about his life, childhood years, right through to, once again, battering his head against a wall, playing Karpov. There we are. Well, this has been Chess Books 81. I'm James Pratt. Thank you for your patience. And we have been talking about Viktor Korchnoi, the late Viktor Korchnoi. Don't forget to like and subscribe down below. Thank you very much.